Now for our musical reflection. The choir will sing Idol of Praise by Craig Courtney.
What a beautiful opening and bringing us into the place of reverence that we so look forward to when we come. This morning we will begin with a brief experience of inner perception. So I'm going to ask you now, if your eyes are not already closed, to briefly close your eyes gently. Have a sense of your body relaxing in your seat, and be aware of your breath. And bring your attention now to the center of your chest, where your heart chakra is. And visualize, if you don't have a sense of it already, visualize this wheel, an inner spinning wheel of light. See light. If you perceive a color within your heart center, allow that color to be. Perhaps you will feel a gentle pulse in that area. But get a sense of your heart center. And now, keeping that feeling or that vision in your mind's eye, allow your eyes now to gently open and focus upon the Christ. Look with your eyes softly at the statue or the picture if that's easier for you to see. And rest your eyes gently upon him. And see if you can, with that gentleness, perceive his essence. And if possible, see and envision the light that surrounds our Christ. And be aware of your heart chakra opening to his presence. And relax and allow that connection to be. And if you can now visualize within his being, his heart center, golden light, and see his heart pouring his light upon you. And have in your vision now yourself standing with the connection of the Christ. And hear these words: I am the light of the world within you. The Christ is within. And then bring yourself back into your seat. And this experience, this beautiful connecting with our Christ and with these words, I am the light of the world within you, came to me just the other day as I was thinking deeply about the world situation in Afghanistan. And I said out loud, we need you, Christ. Christ, we need you. And later that day, these are the words that came to me from that beautiful book from the great ones, The Scattered Brotherhood. This is a solemn time for which you have been gently prepared. Keep in the simple path. Keep in the word, and it will set you free. And by that is meant that you should keep valiant in your insistence upon keeping aware so that you hear the voice within, that the word may abide in you, and in the midst of confusion keep your spirit in peace. This is your role. This is your great service to mankind. Let this phrase be your battle cry. I am the light of the world within you. What a deep experience to feel his nearness and his presence when we wonder, what can we do in this world situation, not just in that part of the world, but here at home, emotionally, physically, so many things happening in our world. And what can we do but remain centered with the Christ, the light of the world, alive within us. We are seeing evil so vividly these days with the pictures. Any time of the day, it's so present, and yet calls us with so much more strength and courage and conviction for each of us to do our part in keeping centered in that light. So we turn to Flower, and in her uniquely eloquent way, and this comes from the Collected Works, Volume 1. She tells us that the lofty aim of religion, we can think of our spiritual journey, our spiritual path, is to bring us to that wise development of sensitivity where we will be able to know union with the divine in an aware, direct, and reverent sense. And there it is. We must invite this process, step by step, to become ever more refined, ever more clear within ourselves, to perceive the inner dimensions of life. And thus this lofty aim is realized, put into practice, and nurtured, where we will eternally expand into growth. So last week we were so ever blessed to receive the messages from our students of the Academy. And it was so uplifting and moving after their long week of preparation and lifetime of preparation to come to this point in their life. And we heard about Christ awareness and connection with Him. We heard about healing and angelic awareness and connection. And we heard about heart opening and expression to life. Aren't these lovely expressions of inner perception? As we grow in our journey, we open to these inner experiences. And that is the message this morning. So if we think about inner perception, which is such a vast topic, of course we are just here this morning to touch upon it. And it will mean different things to you. Perhaps you are someone who wants to be able to grow in your clairvoyance and your deep understanding of the inner world as our beloved Flower was able to do. Perhaps that's something that you are striving for. Perhaps it's that you want to sense the great ones with more clarity and accuracy within yourself. Or maybe connecting with the angelic realm, receiving guidance firsthand and believing it within yourself. Maybe you're one who wishes to sense the beings within nature that are all around us. Or maybe healing your emotional body, becoming aware more of the emotional intelligence that we have. Or perhaps even to change your thoughts, to change your beliefs about yourself. Or to feel the nearness of God within, to feel the love and the joy and blessings and the comfort that God provides. It could be that you're wishing for your meditations to be deeper. Or maybe you have a child or a grandchild or a friend who is troubled, and you would like to love them and understand them and practice your intuitional skills to bless them. All of these are examples of growing in our inner perception. And there are, of course, so many more. Many years ago, I remember Dr. Stephen Isaac talking about inner perception. And he said how we have our physical bodies, and everything that is not seen or felt with our 5 outer senses becomes inner awareness. So there is so much to life that is from within. So if we think about this wonderful topic, why are we here and why are we doing this? To become greater channels and beings of light, awakening to that light within, because we are told again and again that it is within us. So as we grow deeper in our awakening to this inner perception, we understand life, and we can glean the realities of life to help us understand ourselves and as well understand our world and others around us. It helps us to alleviate fear. We seek it as well for the joy of it, of becoming closer to God. And it is the way of our future, for we know that we will continue to grow as spiritual beings. It is a natural unfoldment as we purify, refine our experience. And as we become able to clear all of the blocks that keep us from that flow. So Flower tells us again that Jesus, our Lord, our way shower, told us that the kingdom of heaven is within us. We hear that, and we can behold it by allowing it. He spoke a great deal about the kingdom, meaning the inner world of God, the eternal. He taught us that we must change ourselves. Sometimes I think we forget that that's part of our work, that we, through our work, change, and thus we are able to feel, know, and sense the inner realms with more clarity. She continues to say that before we leave this earth plane, we must be conscious partakers of the inner world and of all its everlasting joys. The great ones continue with this topic of realizing the kingdom of heaven within us. That as this happens, we become aware of the beauty of the infinite spirit. And this, too, comes from the scattered brotherhood letters that Hal reminded us of a few weeks ago. That the great ones say, those who live in that kingdom know that everything is with the spirit of joy. Now, this may seem hard, they say, because it leaves out pity. It's only when we feel sorry for ourselves that it becomes really hard, right? We need to face our challenges with joy, knowing they serve a purpose. And as we change, sight comes. So we have all come into this teaching here that Flower so lovingly and graciously and with such grace gave to us. And one of her main premises is practical Christianity. So as Dan mentioned, we're learning to live in both worlds. Our purpose and goal in this incarnation is to learn to live on the visible plane while keeping our conscious affiliation with the divine world, to which we belong forever. We know this, and we know that we have forgotten this, and we know that we're here to bring this in. But we need to do it in that grounded way. We want to connect to the earth. We need to stay in our bodies. We need to stay connected to our lives. This is something that I really had to come to realize in my life as I came here, for I once thought I had to go out without fully being present in my body, that functionality and realness. So learning inner perception is like anything else. that requires perfection. If we think about the Olympic champions or a principal ballerina or a dancer that comes with great, great dedication and work in order to get to that pinnacle of perfection where we want to go. So we accept it and we work and believe, and we know that we are not alone in this amazing, amazing journey as we begin to awaken. She says that when we have these moments, when we connect with the inner realms, they are beautiful, worthwhile, and true. So if we come into focusing upon inviting this within our lives, the first thing that comes into my awareness is finding stillness. Throughout the day, or even in the midst of a chaotic experience, finding stillness within. And then there's that word, behold. It has become one of my favorite words. For behold is that calling to go deeper, to stop and think and feel. If you think about a flower, you see a flower, but when you stop and you think about it and you find the wonder in it, it just becomes so remarkable. And the word behold, as I understand it, I didn't count, but there's about 1,500 times that word is in the Bible. And there's other references to that word. Behold, I am always with you. And again, coming out of our heads and coming into that experience and feeling it and knowing it, that is inner perception and inviting it in. And also to remember that the inner world, the energetic world, is different from this physical world. There's different colors, there's different laws, and time is different. So when we set our intention to feel and know the inner worlds, we have to let go of our constructs of what this world is like, and then allow it. Invite the Christ in and allow him to show us. It is ever creative, and we know this from flowers, how she, and I always give thanks to her to being able to explain it to us, what she perceived in our language. So, for example, when she perceived the Master G, the light is clear. It was like a sunrise within the inner planes. And now his beam is gone, like switching off a light and switching on another when another presence came in. It feels as though my whole body relaxed in him. So these are beautiful examples, and we can do this when we experience something, to write it down or to share it with others. And that's my next example, is with our soul family, with our soul friends, where there's a safe place to share what you've experienced. And I had an example of this, which I'll share with you, my soul family. Well, it was the silent retreat, the Master's retreat. I sat out on a tree stump just out there, and I was journaling and sitting and just being present. And all of a sudden, I sensed a presence to my left, and it was about 4 feet tall, and it was wearing something really beautiful. And I just felt it, sensed it, saw it in my, I'm awakening to my inner sight, but it took me by surprise, but it was there. And I thanked it, and I wrote about it, And I let it go. And then that same Sunday, it was last Sunday after our big retreat with Seminary Week, was in Paneurythmy. And when I do Paneurythmy, I go within as much as I can into that movement meditation and become as still within. And there was that presence. It was in a tree. It was towards the end of the circle. And I saw it, and almost like we got surprised, or it got surprised that I saw it. And I started to cry because it was so moving. And at the end of the circle, my dear Paneurythmy family said, "Are you okay?" And I started laughing out of joy because I sensed a presence. And it comes from after so much preparation, and it's, of course, something that I've been working on in my life and studying about the inner realms and working. So it was such a joy, and it's such a joy to be able to share it in a place where I hope that I won't get judged. For if we share it with somebody who doesn't understand, it might stop us from continuing to believe that we might sense a presence. I think that's one of the things that stop us, is our minds say, "No, that couldn't be," or "No, you're not there." So if we have a family or someone that you can share it with, it does a great deal for our confidence and our belief in ourselves of becoming and inviting the inner realms. And so then we come into the humility, right? This is all with humble hearts and deepest gratitude. There's nothing of arrogance about it, but it's simply for providing space for us to grow. And with that humility, that if you are an intuitive, if you do have a sense, maybe you're more developed, and you have this sense of being able to feel and know something that's going on with someone else, that you have that humility within you, that you love that person. You do not outwardly judge that person or come with hatred or anything other than pure love. And another way that we invite and come into inner presence is, lo and behold, in our daily lives at work. And for some reason, I think when I'm going to give talks, all these examples come into my life, but I did have an example of this in my Pilates work that many of you know I see clients, and the owner of the studio where I work had a client who needed someone who was fully vaccinated. He was coming here for just a month and a half, and so she asked me to take him on. So as I was driving to work, I was going to see other people as well. I gave out this really big prayer, asking angels, please help me through this. For sometimes that you might know when you're working with somebody for a short time who you're not familiar with and they're not familiar with you, my temperament has always been to feel, let's say, unworthy or not capable. And I get frightened. So, but I'm learning how to stand in my truth and be. And this was such a great thing for when I first, our first session was a bit rocky because he's this, I'll call him Sam. So he knows what his body does. He knows what he likes. Part of his diaphragm is not there. He's got trouble with his hip flexors. So, your mind is going, you're soaking all this in, and we're learning how to be with his body. And so he puts out things like, well, Kim, she's a genius. She knows how to work with me. I'm like, well, okay. How do you know I'm not a genius too? No, I didn't say that. But I really just held my center, and I knew this was going to be tricky. So by the end of our first session, I wasn't sure that he was going to come back. But lo and behold, he came back. So we had about 6 or 7 sessions together. And throughout the time, I learned where to stand back, where to step in, to know this is Pilates, this is not a gym. I don't know gym language. I'm not going to teach you gym. I am a Pilates instructor. Gym is beautiful, but that's not why you're here. And yes, I know about hip flexors and biceps and all those things. But we ended up becoming very open. He shared with me about his family, his children, his life. And he sort of opened up to me. And I to him. So it ended up being this really beautiful exchange. And I know that it was given to me once again to face my challenge, because it is one of the most challenging things. And he probably couldn't have been a more challenging person to work with. So here again, we're given these opportunities. So I didn't know this, but it ended up being the last session we were together. His wife is very sensitive, and it ended up that he had to go into quarantine once again. But it was at his last session, and I must say that this gentleman was a psychology professor in his day. And at the end of our session, he said, you as a Pilates instructor have challenged me to come into my body. I'm always up here in my head. But you, and the way you work, is to bring me into my body. And I said, well, that is true. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't do that. And apparently he hadn't experienced that in that way, of course. But I thanked my angels because it gave me an opportunity to feel stronger in who I am. This is who I am in my work. This is what I offer. And if somebody's going to challenge me, and if they don't want that, that's okay. It doesn't mean that I'm not good, or I'm not a qualified or a competent instructor. So anyway, these are just lessons that life brings us. Whatever it is, life just does it, right? So it has really brought me into a deeper connection with my inner self. So the final idea of inviting this inner practice is that about the emotional realm. We don't usually think about the emotional realm as being part of our inner perception, although it truly is. And there's a woman, her name is Carla McLaren, and I've been listening to her lecture series, which is called The Language of Emotion. And she has also written a book about empaths, the art of empathy. So those of you who have emotional intuition, awareness, especially for you, but truly for all of us. So she's brilliant, I believe, and has really encapsulated the gift of the emotions. And if we jump first to the art of empathy, she goes through the sort of the history of the word empathy, that empathy came into our world, so to speak, that word, in 1909. And it was with, his name was Edward Tierner. He was German, and he translated, Bryce, maybe you know this word, he translated the word Einfühlung, which means feeling into, that feeling, that concept of being able to feel into something, whether it's an animal, another human being, music, art, whatever it is, but that being able to feel into something. So that word empath, she said, then in 1968, was in the Star Trek episode called The Empath. Maybe you remember Jem. Her name was Jem. And apparently, I'm not a Star Trek person, but apparently she wore sparkly clothes. She didn't talk, but she felt and she brought in people's emotions and she helped to heal them. So Carla McLaren sort of brings in how this concept of emotional empathy made its way from science fiction into the New Age world. And in the New Age world, emotions aren't necessarily a good thing, right? We kind of try to push the emotions away. But it was in the 1970s that she came into being and had her. She felt that it was her work to bring it more out of the garbage can, she said. She said that in the 1970s, empaths at that time were considered the lowest form of trash garbage psychics because they worked on emotions, which were mostly despised in the New Age at that time. So she said that she focused on how to bring empaths and emotions out of the trash. She said that when she did that, she realized that empathy was not really a psychic skill, because empathy is something that everybody, we are all empaths. That's how we connect to the world. That's how we connect to our children, our animals, to music, to life. So she sort of brought the mystical, that it's something mystical, into something that's very real. However, I really do feel that if you are able to behold the emotional realm of our beingness and bring it into something that nurtures or that we can understand ourselves, I think that is a really, really beautiful and important aspect of inner perception. Because as Stephen said, all things that we don't see, feel with our outer senses. So it's just interesting how, and Carla speaks about this, she grew up, I guess in the 60s, right? 50s, 60s, but where we were taught the emotions are the opposite of rationality, and therefore emotions go unheeded, dishonored, unheard. We didn't really learn necessarily how to deal with our emotions. If you go to school and you get mad, then you get put in the corner. Or, how do we deal with this very real aspect of who we are? So she says that because at our early training, our empathic and emotional skills tend to go underground, but they're never gone. We can always bring them back. An empath is simply a person who reads emotions and nonverbal information. And she uses the word hyper empath as someone who's really sensitive. And I know there's many of us here who are maybe come into that category of hyper empath, where you truly have that intuitional component of being able to feel somebody's emotion and don't necessarily know how to deal with that. But that's the art of learning boundaries so that it becomes not a problem, but it becomes a skill. There is so much we can learn about each other when we can learn to read and understand our emotions. So you don't have to be a hyper empath to be a member of the empathic community, she says. You're an empath because you read emotions. All of us do. when we listen to music and work and the animals, babies, when we laugh. And what I really love about what she brings in is how the emotions connect everything. So they connect our thoughts. They connect our connection. We're always emotionally connecting to life. And it's really actually beautiful. And I think as we start to see, perhaps we'll see the colors, and we'll know if there's darker colors, the evil, how to learn how to stand in our truth into that, to make sense of our world. So I have one more example in my life to sort of bring this session to a close. Many of you know that I experienced a divorce about 6 years ago. And since that time, I have gone in deeply into my emotional world, into understanding what happened. And throughout these years have been in contact with my ex-husband of amends and ways of deepening an understanding. And I know he as well has been doing the same. So again, at this master's retreat, 2 things came to me when I first woke up in the morning, and one of them was to write a letter to him explaining this one component that during the time of our separation, he asked, why? And I didn't know how to verbalize it. But that morning I woke up and I knew it was time to write the letter, and the letter flowed. I sent it before even going to Chapelito. I think maybe that was a little bit brave, but I did it. And it was received with such gratitude. And he asked if we could meet and talk about what happened. And so we did. And as I was driving to his house, and I had just been learning about what was going on in Afghanistan, and I felt like, well, what I can do is walk into my fear. And I felt like, here I go, I'm doing my work. And so I told him that, and he said, well, I'm not the Taliban. But we had a wonderful, wonderful sharing of what happened. And we both have come so far in our understanding of ourselves and of the situation and learning about our lives. We have changed. And we celebrate the creativity, the love, and the joy of us, including our beautiful son. We're living our lives. We're opening, we're growing, and we're changing because we're doing our work. And after that, as I feel as though I've come into this deeper understanding of what love is. And I think when we have these experiences we stretch, we grow, and I pour out gratitude for this opportunity and looking forward what can come. Our work is not yet over. It never is. But if we do our work, we can help each other to grow. We can dive into the pain. We can face the darkness, because that is what we can do to help our world, to face our own pain, whatever it might be, without self-pity, with courage, but with support, because we can't do this alone. So Flower tells us that one of the most wonderful things that Christ ever gave this world as his permanent gift was the awareness that this outer dimension is penetrated, supplied, and guided by another higher spiritual dimension. We know there is more to life than appears on the surface. Out of this deep certainty that Christ gives us of eternity to which we belong, there springs a new and creative worship and consecration to God. Spiritual identification means merging the whole person, body, mood, mind, and soul with the power and order of spirit. This is possible through reverence, realization, and illumination. The invitation to spiritual perception in our lives is by changing ourselves with growth through reverence, realization, and illumination. Amen.
In the midst of my confusion, in the time of desperate need, when I'm thinking not too clearly, a gentle voice does intercede. Slow down, be still. Be still and wait on the Spirit of the Lord. Slow down and hear His voice and know that He is God. In the time of tribulation, when I'm feeling so unsure, when things are pressing in about me, comes a gentle voice, so still, so pure. Slow down, be still, my child.
beautiful song to end the service, slowing down and intuition. Miara, thank you for such a beautiful talk of giving your real life examples and sharing that to prove to us the power of these ideals to truly make change. So this is our moment when we want to thank everyone for your continued support here at Quest Haven, now in our 81st year. And everything we do here is from the gratitude and the love of people who are so happy to receive whatever resonates with them, whatever serves to inspire and to uplift and bring beauty into their life, and want to give back. So we are ever so grateful for all of that. And there's an opportunity on the table on the narthex or on the computer on the blue button to continue and just see what Quest Haven can become. As many beautiful changes are occurring. So the announcements next Sunday, I'll be giving the talk, and is following up on what Miara's been telling us, to focus on creating positive change, not just within ourselves, but within our group or at work or supporting a cause, bringing in that Christ spirit of change. There will be a rehearsal for Michael Mass immediately following the service today here inside the church. And please join us for a fellowship and potluck refreshments at Friendship House immediately after the service. Next Saturday, September 4th, is our Servers in Action Day, an opportunity for our spiritual community to come out together at 9 a.m. We meet at the workshop for 3 hours, 9 to 12, to help clean up the grounds and keep this place just so beautiful. So we thank you for all those over the past who continue to come out and support us in that way. And the Sacred Nature service is held monthly on the first Sunday, 9 to 10:30 a.m. So next Sunday, they will be meeting under the oak tree near Chapelito. Now, the Reverend Blake Isaac will have an announcement.
You probably noticed some changes when you drove up to the gate. Our sign, or the sign that we've had for the last bit of years, is now removed, and we're preparing for a new impetus coming to Quest Haven. And we have a stucco person coming in on Monday who's going to be working with us the wall. The following week, we'll be putting caps on those walls, and the following week, we will be putting in a new gate. So it's a wonderful thing to see the growth and be patient with us as it's unfolding, and I appreciate everybody's help in that. And even we're still fundraising for our sign because we feel like that entrance sign really needs to speak at the essence of who we are. So thank you for your gifts to help that. And I'll close with a beautiful announcement that today is Gordon's birthday at 94. Happy birthday, brother. And I believe Lori and Karen have a special surprise at Friendship House if you're able to come. And if you aren't, Gordon, we will be enjoying it without you, but celebrating for you. And now let us stand and sing the Lord's Prayer together in honor of him this day.
So let us be seated and finish with yet one more centered, quiet, and ever-reaching space. This beautiful reverence that we behold, that we create, that we contribute to each time we come, whether it be here or in our homes or whatever place we are in. This space is here within us, and it is with great joy, gratitude, and celebration that we walk with you, O beloved Lord Christ, who is the light of our world, the light that lives within each and every one. How grateful we are, and in deepest gratitude. Amen. And may you walk in the light and behold the inner worlds within your days, within your moments, within your steps. Amen.